Advice, I appreciate that.
We're looking for the go live.
Oh, did I?
I'm not sure how long you all have been following the Jawn adventures, but hopefully a few of you remember our first appearance together as one. The year was 1973 and we starred in the cult classic Japanese sci-fi movie Battle for Tokyo. If you remember, Jawn was traveling to Japan for a string of jazz performances at the burgeoning nightclub scene in Japan. The Piper Cub plane we had chartered experienced engine difficulty and we were forced to land on a scarcely populated island. While there we were exposed to massive amounts of gene-altering gamma rays. We were unaware of this until after being rescued by local fishermen we were performing a tight set of downtempo numbers in a beautiful basement club when the streets began to rumble. As the patrons rushed outside to see what was going on, we instinctively followed and were faced by the horror of a 40-foot tall Tankor monster. Tankor had leveled blocks of the city and was hellbent on total destruction. Just out of instinct, Nathan, Steve and I all rushed forward to sacrifice ourselves to save our music-loving fans. When we grasped hands to form a human barrier, our strength intensified and hummed with electricity. Shocked as we were by the transformation, we were quick on our feet and quickly became a three-man army, giving Tankor all he could handle. Over the next 90 minutes various battles and plot twists took place until finally we were able to ensnare Tankor in a circus tent and toss him out to sea, saving most of Japan and becoming local heroes to the citizens and government officials. If you happen to live in Japan during the early 1970s, I'm sure you remember our images on everything from lunchboxes, t-shirts, umbrellas and ladies' underwear. We were the talk of the town there for a short while. Now of course, we are confined to chairs in the vast studio/broadcasting station where we appear live weekly. I think you may be able to find Battle for Tokyo on VHS at flea markets and collector's shows. The royalties from that one movie and the merchandise has allowed us to live quite comfortably here in Staunton, Virginia, only occasionally recognized and asked to repeat our well-known catchphrase "Japan needs Jawn." Attack Nathan! Attack Steve! Attack Kyle! Together we attack as one! Enjoy our show tonight and remember, the old sci-fi monster movies are some of the best use of celluloid ever.
Three little frogs sitting on a log. One of them fell in. One frog said to the other frog, "Well, you better go get her." Two little frogs sitting on a log. One of them fell in. Last little frog, he sat and thought, good thing they can swim. Jabberjaw, 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 Jabberjaw. Three little frogs sitting on a log. One burst into a grin. One frog said to the other frog, "Wonder what's got into him." Two little frogs sitting on a log. One laughed until he was red. Last little frog, he sat and thought, must have been something I said. Jabberjaw, 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 Jabberjaw. Ding, 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 ding. Let the games begin. Welcome to Jawn. I'm Nathan Moore. This is Kyle Hogg. Steve Moore at your service. Greetings, world. I actually saw the new Godzilla movie. Have you seen that yet? What's it called? -1? Godzilla -1, maybe? Something like that. It's pretty good. I think it won an Academy Award.
Where did you see it?
For best visual effects on Netflix.
Oh, is it that, okay.
It's entertaining, for sure. Good storytelling.
I remember it was
Has one of the best stories.
when we went and saw the End of the World, wherever that movie was called. It was
Civil
playing.
War.
Yeah, it was playing there.
Ah. Yeah, they had some innovations on the Godzilla character, and it was a
Did he have
well
any,
done
did
movie.
he have his humor?
No,
No.
not funny.
Have you ever seen the original
Scary,
King
scary.
Kong?
The original King Kong, yeah,
That's good.
that stop motion stuff.
That's
I just
crazy.
love that. Still one of my favorite things. The only thing I liked having the Disney Channel for was they did this like 3-part documentary on the early like Lucas films and all the stop motion
Right.
guys. And I watched that like 3 times
Oh,
before
wow.
I canceled my Disney subscription. But those early days of filmmaking, where they had to take, like the claymation and stuff, where you'd move it a little bit and take a picture, then move it a little bit more, like the original Godzilla, the original King Kong, were all
Now, what was
just
that guy?
puppets that they took pictures of.
What was that guy's name? Rudy Ryan? The guy that was famous for all that stuff? I'm getting ready to say Rudy Ray Moore, but not Rudy. Rudy, what was his name? Ridenhauser? It was something. He had a really cool name, but I think he was the guy that did a lot of those movies.
It was such few people there in the
Yeah.
beginning. And it is pretty interesting how, like, everything up until around, I guess, the 80s or 90s, before computers were involved, everything that you saw in a movie, they had to make happen somehow in the real world. So, like, all the original Star Wars movies and stuff, if you see a ship fly, it might be a little one, but it's really everything so, like, you could just sit there and just wonder how in the heck they did it. And a few people out there could figure it out. Like, I know how they did it. Now that the computers are doing half everything, there's just no way of knowing. It's you just assume it's all
Right.
computers. But all the way, any movie that you see up until the 80s, when did that change? Do you know, Lex? Was it 80s? CGI and that kind of stuff started coming into it?
I think it'd be maybe 90s. Like,
Yeah.
I feel
So
like
even through the 80s.
Toy Story really changed everything. I feel like that was like one of the first. Before then, it was all traditional animation drawn on cells and stuff. You think all the Lion King, all the Disney stuff for a while. But then Toy Story happened, and it was like it was a
New
thing.
paradigm.
Yeah, maybe there were some earlier versions. I don't know.
In some ways, it takes a little bit of the wonder out of it, because before then, they really had to come up. One famous thing they used to do was called matte painting, and they would make these like really elaborate paintings on glass and put that in the foreground. So like you'd have like a big sheet of glass right here, and you could paint like a tree on it. So you'd have you'd be behind this tree, and you see these like famous scenes from like Ben-Hur or even like Star Wars and stuff, where they had this giant piece of glass with this elaborate painting on it. It's just so neat how they did it. And you can really watch movies with that kind of eye. Like, how did they do that?
Is that why you see actors like run towards the camera and then go fall back?
Yeah.
He's been shot. No, he just ran into the glass. He's all right.
Hey, Silas, Jonah, welcome to the show, everybody.
Here's a fun example of kind of what Nathan's talking about. Some behind the scenes of a Star Wars
Oh, look at that.
thing.
Is that a mat?
Well, it's kind of probably, but going back to how they would make Star Wars.
Oh, those guys,
and,
right.
this is it's not CGI,
Stop motion.
it's stop motion with
Yep.
things, and
Somebody needs to tell me that guy's name. Rudy Ridenhouse. What is the guy's name? Rudy. That's gonna drive me crazy.
Ridenhouse? Is that what you want to
It
say?
keeps coming into my mind and leaving. All I can think of now is Rudy Ray Moore.
That's not right.
Rudy. Oh, maybe it's not Rudy. Oh, crap.
So is that really zero Gatorade you got there?
It is.
Is that your jam? Is that what you drink a lot of those?
Well, I'm trying to not drink as much soda, so I tried this. I don't know if this is any better than soda. It's like cigarettes and vaping. I don't know what it is. but
It's supposed to be better. Jury's still.
it's a pretty blue color too.
You're part of the guinea pig crew. Find out if that's actually better for us. So we got our PO box received a package yesterday.
Oh, wow.
This apparently inspired by our last episode. Let's see here. I might be able to already smell something. Here's the one. In celebration of your 69th episode, this is our 69th episode.
Oh, yeah.
Careful with the crude humor. Children are out there watching. In celebration of your 69th episode of Jabber Jawn, this company has been making fragrances since the 1750s and have made soaps and cologne for several U.S. presidents. Enjoy their sandalwood soaps from Clutch.
Oh, my gosh. I'm getting
Look at that. So look at that. Mitch is his real name. Clutch is his handle.
Damn.
That's exciting. There you go.
Now I know why I do this stupid show.
How wonderful.
Man, Catherine's going to come tearing down the steps full of speed. She smells all this sandalwood out here.
Smells pretty amazing, doesn't it?
Oh, that is so nice.
I love it. I like the idea of using stuff that's been made for over 100 years and been worn by presidents and important people.
Republicans and Democrats alike have worn this. We used to all get along.
Look at, it's pretty cool looking.
Oh, man.
Like an egg.
I guess it's wrapped in plastic. Be careful. Don't just go straight into the shower with that.
I've been rubbing and rubbing.
Oh, wait a minute. Is this is it encased in wood? Oh, wait. No, it's not. I dug my fingernail in a little too emphatically.
It's the sap of this wood.
Go ahead.
I just want to report from the production booth that it is already smelling amazing in the entire room.
Wow, look at that.
Man.
I'm not sure how this is packaged. I'm gonna do mine so y'all can learn from my mistakes.
I'm gonna have to invite somebody over to have a shower with me just to show off this fancy stuff. You mind doing my back with this nice new sandalwood?
Wow,
What a wonderful thing.
that is fancy. So it's not in wood. I think that's a bar of soap that looks like wood.
Yeah.
It's very confusing. I thought maybe it was each individually wrapped in a piece of wood.
Man, this is so cool.
Sandalwood, a hint of sandalwood remains. Where's that line from?
Is that? Oh,
A hint of, is it a poem or a song?
Song.
A hint of sandalwood.
it's having trouble focusing on it. huh?
Sweet Melissa. Sweet Melissa by the Allman Brothers. No, I don't think that's it. Oh, a hint of sandalwood. Really?
Hey Siri,
Yes.
which song has a line in it about a hint of sandalwood?
I couldn't find a song with those lyrics on Apple Music.
What are we paying you for?
You know
She
what?
didn't take any time.
I
I don't really
know.
think she
I don't
thought
think she
about
looked
it very long.
Yeah. She
Come
was
on.
just like,
Give me a break.
She went through like her top 5 artists and didn't find it.
I think so.
thank you very much out there, Clutch.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Clutch. He
that's
came
right.
through
So-
the Clutch right down.
This actually inspires the next little thing I'd like to address about this is that we did have also a correspondence inspired by our last episode, where for those that don't know, our last episode we talked about fragrances almost the whole time. It was actually sort of miraculous.
Fragrances and diapers.
Yeah, that was pretty much the whole of it. And but a regular viewer wrote me a pretty lengthy correspondence because she was sad that she wasn't watching in real time because she had a lot to say on the subject, because she has an adverse reaction to fragrances.
Oh.
And apparently, after reading her correspondence and doing a little bit of research on top of it, it's way more prevalent than you would think. Like 1 in 3 people almost can't go out in public anymore because of the products and stuff that are in all the smells. it's almost like secondhand smoke, if not worse. And 1 in 3 people have an allergic reaction to fragrances. And this viewer,
That's interesting.
this viewer has such a severe reaction. She's basically has to live a cloistered life because and it's very frustrating for her too, because the family and friends don't take it as seriously as they should, and it's very frustrating for her because as soon as you walk into a room, if someone's wearing a strong deodorant or perfume, you're just like, I gotta go. I just it's that bad that you really will get a terrible migraine or something. So, so I just want to take this moment to raise people's awareness a little bit about that situation, and that if you do have someone in your life that suffers from this, I would behoove you to respect it, and if you want to hang out with them in company, try to go in there just smelling like your stinky natural self, and take it seriously, because I did some research on top of it, and it's way more common than you would think, and I just thought that was a pretty interesting. Do y'all know anything about any of that, or have any questions?
I wasn't aware that it was that severe, that there were that percentage, but I knew that was out there. People can be sensitive in lots of different ways to different things, but it is fascinating, the power that it's just chemical. The molecule that's giving you that's causing her allergy is a chemical. It's in that stuff, and it's getting into her nose and coming through. So, you either can not wear that, or I was wondering while you were talking if she has any devices that could, mainly where you'd be shutting down a lot of the olfactory senses.
Right.
But she'd still get some of it, but it wouldn't be as strong. I don't know. I mean,
like the masks.
That where you would, or just learn to breathe through your mouth. I don't know. Would that help?
That probably would still go to the same place, right?
Well, I'm thinking just when you breathe through a lot of your nasal passage, all those hairs, they're the ones that are picking up the smell, a lot of smells.
Right.
We're not talking taste. That's the glands down in here. And there are glands for that too, but the smell comes from, along hair follicles and the chemoreceptors that in there. So if you were breathing through the mouth, but of course then you'd exhale. I don't know that you could do that.
Right.
It would be very uncomfortable probably. I don't know.
When I worked at Markel, we had a lot of people that we worked in like open cubicles. I know a lot of people had fans in their cubicle just to keep everybody else's perfumes and colognes. They'd come in and they'd come over to you like, oh my God, somebody's wearing, it's killing me. They just, if you knew the person well enough, I've heard people ask them, please don't wear that anymore. But I guess lots of times you don't want to go to somebody you don't know and tell them. Like you said, people don't know how. They're just like, stop being a crybaby or something.
Right, they don't take it seriously. Right.
But I remember you just, you just walk around like, why does everybody got fans on in their room?
Jonah has some interesting thing to say. Jonah says, my mom knew someone who had anaphylaxis when she smelled paper, or when paper was in the room. Seems like that would be hard to avoid.
Wow. That's interesting.
So let's back up. Anaphylaxis. Anyone explain that?
No.
I'm not sure, no.
Can anyone spell it?
Siri.
Hey Siri, what's anaphylaxis?
Thanks, Jonah.
Anaphylaxis is a serious, potentially fatal allergic reaction and medical emergency that is rapid in onset and requires immediate medical attention regardless of the use of emergency medication on site.
Wow.
It's about as intense of an allergic respiratory reaction. I threw in respiratory maybe. Magpie is saying it's not just the scents themselves, but the chemicals used in all these products. Things aren't natural anymore. There's a lot of petroleum that's one thing I liked about our soap that I got, since they've been making it since the 1800s. There's a chance, although I imagine they might have changed their formula over
That
the
could
years.
mean a very long line of death they've caused. You never know.
That's exactly true.
No, I'm dating all the way back that far. No.
Yep, it's a whole thing. A lot of people are chiming in with people they know or stories they have of, so it's definitely something to be conscious of and aware of. I, even with last week's conversation, a lot of that was more out of a fascination than it was having a lot of practical knowledge myself. I've never been a big cologne guy or a scent guy, but I think even probably at my basest, I probably still would trigger a reaction in some people with just the shampoos and soaps that I use.
Well, I'm sorry to report, because I wouldn't have done it if I'd have known we were going to go this direction, but I covered myself in whatever's in there before.
Well, luckily, nobody here suffers.
And
from
nobody
this condition.
noticed, which
I didn't notice.
I think that means that my normal smell overwhelmed that.
Whoa, that is something.
Yeah, I don't know if it's cologne or perfume.
Well, that smells good.
I'm not planning on leaving the house, so if you don't mind.
Well, tell you what, this could be a little dab and a little bit of sandalwood. You might have a good night ahead.
I love it.
Hi, Kethra.
And since none of y'all saved me, it's Ray Harryhausen that did the animation.
No wonder you couldn't remember
I
that
know.
name. Harryhausen.
But he did like all the old, the what's
That's
the,
been bothering you for 20
I
minutes.
know, what's like the Samson and all those old movies you used to go see?
Oh,
you know,
how about the? All right, let's look at his little list here.
Ray Harryhausen. He was the master of that type of stuff back in the day.
The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. Did a lot of Ray Bradbury theater stuff. Yeah, like Jaws was made before computers, so when you see that Jaws, they had to make that.
That's real.
They had, it was all mechanical.
Let's not talk about that, please.
You scared of that stuff?
I don't like that show.
That did affect me when I first saw Jaws. I was terrified
yeah.
to go to the beach after
The
that.
same actor that pulled the curtain in Psycho played the shark.
Right.
In my brain.
Few people know that. Few people know that.
No, that's a little known historical fact. Woo! I have no idea where that one came from.
Oh my god. Oh my god. My mom tells a story. I was too young when Psycho came out, but my sister went and saw it. And my mom said she came home just in tears, never wanted to take a bath again. Just that scared her so bad. That was it. She was like, didn't even want to go to the movies anymore. She was like,
Oh,
I
it
don't
was
want
horrible.
to ever be scared.
The music too, that shrieking music.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
It was well done. Was that Hitchcock?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I downloaded a couple of Hitchcock movies recently to watch. And I'm just gonna get on a little classic kick or whatever. I think Anatomy of Murder isn't Hitchcock.
No.
It was a couple with
Rear Window.
Jimmy Stewart. Yep.
Oh, that's
And The Rope.
Oh yeah. The Rope's the one that supposedly is just one long camera.
Oh, it's one of those.
He because I think however much film you had, like 10 minutes at a time, he never cut the camera off. Supposedly, just he filmed, and of course he had to reload the camera. But
So everybody just had to stand like that while he put new film in the camera.
I think they were behind a glass plate, so they could sort of. Well, in Psycho, that was talking about special effects and stuff. That was like Hershey's chocolate they used as the blood, Because
Oh, right.
yeah,
Black and white.
Yeah, because they wanted it to really stand out.
And they
the
needed the
color.
viscosity.
Right.
Wow. Good word.
So speaking of something going to be bothering me forever, what's the actual date of today?
The 13th.
13th. Let's make this right. I had a pretty cool experience right before you guys got here. I had a piano key that was not working quite right. So I called my my piano tuner who lives in Harrisonburg, and he wasn't available until like the 26th. And I've been doing my nightly shows, and I play piano on the show, so I was like, God, that's so far away. Is there any chance you could get on the video, on a video call with me? And just before y'all got here, I'd spent about a half an hour on a video call with my piano guy, and he walked me through the operation, and I repaired the piano, and it is now working like it should. It's like that scene in the movie where they're talking you through taking apart a time bomb or something, like cut the green wire. I was just holding up the camera, and he was walking me through it, and it's so fun to take it apart, deconstruct it a little bit, demystify it a little bit, and see how it all works. It's just it was a very
Very cool.
satisfying endeavor. And now that there's just one key and it was a very important key.
Man.
There you go.
You think about calling if you could tell me how to clean the filter in my washing machine?
I don't know. It could be a whole enterprise of video calling, walking you through
That would be
repairs
good,
of
yeah.
different things,
No,
like
won't
chefs.
Work. Won't work.
There could be a chef. You know, like people cook. A chef will walk you
the
through.
chef one could do it.
Could walk
but
you
the
through.
working one will do it. Won't work.
Which one?
The one where you're taking somebody like what you just did, where you get to go in and fix something.
Mm-hmm.
No,
No.
people aren't going to work.
What, you don't think?
No.
The chef,
Some people will.
To some people, yeah. I mean, we don't need everybody in the world
That's
this big.
true. That's true. I might be wrong.
That's one thing that's so cool about
Yeah, the world's
the
weird.
world being so large and media being what it is. Like you could be a very small act or something, and that would actually equal thousands of people.
Yeah.
But I don't. That there might be a business model here where you have online experts.
yeah.
Experts that walk you through. The chef one is a good idea
I
because
agree.
they would get on a video call and
Yeah,
just see
that-
what you have. Like, show me your pantry.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I want you to grab those artichoke hearts. I want you to grab that pasta.
Yeah, that would work.
Well,
Now, it'd be so fun.
Since Margie lives so far away, sometimes I will be talking. I'll be like, man, I wish I had, whatever to eat. Because I know how to make that. I'm like, oh, what do we need? I'll go to the grocery, I'll get off the phone, go to the grocery store. I don't know where half the stuff she tells me to buy is, so she'll walk me to the grocery store. We go home, I put some music on, put the video camera there so I can see her and she can see me cooking, and I make the meal. And I'm like, oh man, this is perfect. Of course, it's lonely and sad too, but
It's not as lonely and sad as it would be just eating another Pop-Tart by yourself.
but so then, so I sit down by myself and enjoy a meal we sort of made together.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's very fun.
That is cool.
I made some good dishes that way.
You could freeze a little bit for the next time you see her, so you can show her how it tasted.
And the funniest thing today, I don't think a lot of people just don't know if I'm kidding with them, or they don't know if I'm being serious or
Can't
not.
believe you've had that trouble.
But so me and a friend went to lunch yesterday. We went and got hibachi, and she didn't eat all of hers, so she asked for like a takeout container. So I put mine there. She said, just put mine in there too, you can have it. So I went home last night and I had it. So this morning I emailed her at work. I said, man, I had that hibachi last night. I can't believe you put a safety pin in there. I bit into it, and I was just kidding with her. I said, I found that safety pin you put in there. Luckily, I didn't swallow it. But other than that, the food was really good. And she just wrote back, great, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Never denied that she put a safety
Oh my goodness.
Not a safety pin, like a whatever you call it.
Razor blade.
No, like like a needle, not like something that would not hurt you. This is a safety pin, right?
Yeah, that's safety.
No, what do you call just like a regular needle? But when she wrote back, "Oh, great, I'm glad you enjoyed it," I just busted out laughing. Like, you're not even going to deny that you put a needle in there.
So what was the food again? Hibachi?
Yeah.
Like that's a restaurant?
You know, when they cook the food on that big grill right in front of you and toss the shrimp to you and all that stuff.
Yeah. Nice.
There's one of those right near work.
In Stanton?
In Harrisonburg. And there was no needle in my food. It didn't come from the restaurant or
It was all a
or-
joke.
It was all a joke that either she didn't get or just chose to ignore.
Either of y'all ever been to the Japanese restaurant out on Greenville? Not Richmond Road, I
Yeah,
guess.
I've wanted to, but I've never been there.
Where they do that.
Yeah.
And I love that. Have you ever
Masaki.
been there?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
long
Masaki.
time ago.
It's delicious. Masaki.
And entertaining.
And entertaining.
Yeah.
It is such a fun thing to have them
Yeah,
get right in
I
front
liked
of you.
it. Yeah.
It's very cool.
Do they do the tossing food and all that stuff too?
They all have their tricks.
That must be different though if you have beards. Like, y'all leave there with stuff stuck in your beard that you don't know that's stuck in there. I missed the shrimp. You get home and Catherine says, "No, you don't miss it. It's hung in your beard right there."
I'm just saving that for later.
No, do they have sushi there too, or is it just?
I'm not sure. I
Man.
do like sushi.
Have you ever been to Silk Road in Waynesboro? That is like it's like 1973 came, we made our movie, and they just stopped the design. That is like stepping back in time to go to that place. I love it.
Is it delicious?
Yeah.
Man, I'm getting hungry.
But then they have like all these Irish beers and stuff there. It always cracks me up to order like, sushi and all these Asian type things, and they get a nice Irish beer to drink with it. Like, you get the whole center.
And a pint?
Like in the bar, like a wrap. Like, can't you just sit in the middle? Doesn't that bar go all the way around?
Yeah, it's like a little island in the middle.
Yeah.
I used to gig there
Oh wow.
Oh, wow.
at Silk Road in Waynesboro with Larry Raglan, my neighbor.
Oh, wow.
So add this to the list of oddities of that place. They wanted on Sunday to do a jazz brunch, and they hired Larry Raglan, and he brought myself and Danny Dollinger, and we played John Denver music.
And called it jazz?
They were fine with it. We played John Denver. We played like all this like folk music, all the stuff you'd normally hear Larry Raglan play, 70s folk, all of it. And
Oh,
they
wow.
just were so delighted with their jazz brunch. It was perfect.
But the food is really good. But when you go in there, it's just so cool to go in there.
Very cool. So you brought your book.
Jazz
Do you have any plans for us today?
Yeah, I was going to take notes, but yeah, I had some things written down. But if I forgot and we got stuck, I was going to look at it. But I was also going to write some stuff down because I never remember anything. I watched this last week's show this afternoon. That's why I remember some of the stuff. So, but well, here's something I did want to throw out about the way we ended last week when I talked about utility underwear. Just to I wanted to throw this out that, I had a friend of mine talking to me, and they were saying, you really did a good thing there. I mean, there are people out there that needed to hear that, whether they be a caretaker or an older man or someone who was dealing with an older man, whatever. She said that was a real thing I did to try to help people, and she knew somebody that needed to hear that. And I thought, of course, that made me feel good. And then after she left, I was thinking, what we're doing here, we're having fun and just playing around, but you'd never know when you might touch someone, and you see it all the time. And then I thought, that's the beauty of the whole thing is that you only have to touch one.
To make it all worth the effort.
I see you do that, You know, I used to say when I would teach school and I was teaching junior high, ninth graders, and that's a rough gig, I guarantee you. You know, their hormones are kicking in, and I just remember when you were in the ninth grade, did you want to learn anything from me?
Anything, right?
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I mean, I was doing tornadoes and really fun stuff, and they still didn't care. But that was a job, man. But you know, what was I lost my train of thought?
But just reaching one person makes.
Well, that's what I would do with those classes. There would be 19 kids in there, and there would be 3 that actually listened to what I was doing, and I would control the other 16 so those 3 could hear me.
Right.
And that's the way I looked. And I think, you know, a performer, I know you do that at night. You don't know if anybody's watching, but it only takes one, and that's what my observation was.
Yeah.
Today. You can really, because what is life? What do you do anyway? You know, if we weren't doing this at all, I'd be sitting home thinking all these cool things, all these sick and perverted things too. But I don't want to talk about that. But you know. But they don't get anywhere. But at least here they have a means of travel.
Yeah.
I like that.
So do you,
And if you like this show, after midnight we do one where he just talks about his sick and perverted things.
Jabber John late night.
That's a whole nother show. In fact, I think I'm going to do those that cannot be published until posthumous.
There you go. Should we do I haven't even looked at it yet, but should we do an isolated edit of that moment last week to share on social media for those that won't watch an hour and 15 minutes of us talking about perfume
I would,
to get to the...
If you could capture what I was trying to say. You know, I was afraid to watch it because I didn't think I did it justice, but I didn't do that bad.
Oh, good.
And if you edit it, you could really, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Just make it like a reel or one of those shorts that people share.
We can
on
do
social
them for
media.
different things.
TikTok.
Yeah. Well, you know, it fits in this category of things that I was talking about, of things that we grew up, were inculcated, that we were taught. We didn't even see other options, and we accepted them. You know, the racial thing in the South was a good example. You were just taught one way, and you weren't ever exposed to the other options, and that was a lot of it.
Yeah.
So, you know, but I'm not talking, I don't want to go there. Everybody's already there. But there's just all these little things that we have in our head that we think are true, that we just live through, that don't hold up to any type of analysis. They're not really true at all.
Right.
But we live them. We live in them, and that we believe them, and they are part of who we are. And when you can shoot those little balloons down, I think it's fun to do.
Yeah, it really
And
is.
I think that's what happened with the diaper thing for me. I just came to this realization that I was making stuff up about that. You know, there's not a dang on thing. And I do not have a diaper on tonight, but if I did, I'd be exactly the same.
Right.
I don't know why I had to deny that.
Well, I was very proud of you, and I thought that was great too. But man, when you first started, and I didn't know where you were going. I was like, oh my gosh, this could lead. I didn't know. Did you know where he was going?
I had no idea.
I was like, oh my God, are me and Nathan have to knock him down in a second? I was like,
Of
He
course,
gets tackled from the left.
of course, I did that on purpose. You know, I set you up I wanted to see where you would go. I thought it was beautiful that you got the bathroom. When I said I'm
yep.
coming out, and you said the bathroom.
Yeah, that was quick.
well, that's because when I went to pick him up, I went in and I said, anybody here? And he goes, I'm in the bathroom. So
Yeah, it wasn't quick. It was just a reaction.
Has the bathroom guy started any of that work on your
I'm not
house?
going to get that done for a long time. I just spent
Because
I've been a whole lot of money on a new furnace.
On
So
the new furnace. How'd that go? Is that done?
yeah, I think we're done.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah, I think we got her. Yeah, I'll show it off. It's going over. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I bet.
It's a piece of work.
And they get rid of the old stuff.
Yeah, you got a lot of it. You didn't
I
get
bet that-
You didn't get that big antique out of there.
That's a museum piece.
I think
that's
so.
a fascinating piece of. That's a
You
fascinating.
could make a
old
Japanese
appliance.
horror movie. Out of
Yeah,
it.
that's yeah.
No, have you seen like the new? Well, these aren't new. They're probably 10 years old. However, like will they come on the TV? What was those? What are those movies?
Oh, The Ring.
Oh God, that's.
Yeah.
Do those scare you? You
A
wouldn't-
little bit.
You wouldn't like those, I don't think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. For a while, we were on a kick of like Japanese horror movies, and some of that stuff's just like freaky, scary.
It's so interesting what's scary. There's just something about the way that character moves or
Yeah.
whatever, with the stringy hair in front or whatever, and see like a well-made zombie movie or something that like
Right.
just like weird stuff that is frightening.
I think the scariest thing I've ever seen in a movie, which is laughable, it's not even that funny, is Pet Cemetery. Have you ever seen that?
Oh yeah,
When
Stephen
the lady
King.
comes out of the bed and she's got skull, whatever she has, man, that scared the crap out of me.
What's the premise of that movie?
The dog, or is it the boy that gets hit by a car or the dog? I think a boy. Doesn't their son chase the ball out in the street and the truck hits him? And they bury him, and then, gosh, the other part, that part scared me so bad I can't remember what it's about. What is it about? And they're trying to grieve.
Is it like a cemetery where whatever you bury comes back to
Comes
life?
back, yeah, and they did it, yeah, yep. And then they tried it. They realized it with a cat that had been hit previously. I think an animal died, and they buried it.
Oh, so they did it on purpose to bring their son back?
Yeah, and everything goes wrong with that.
I'm gonna have to watch that.
Is it
Wow.
really good?
God, I'd forgotten all about how it was.
Well, that's like the genre of scary movies that I like.
Really.
There's a whole subset genre of scary movies called the gore thing that I was never a huge fan of. Although it is an interesting subset of movie culture, because for the people that love the gory movies, to them they're comedies.
Right.
It's pretty interesting, that whole subset. If you go to like a horror con convention or
Right.
something, like to them it's all just funny.
Yeah, nobody's terrified.
And if we like it, and you can really appreciate it, sort of back to like stop motion and things like that. Like if we were to make a horror movie, you starred in a horror movie we made once out of Trinity Point, Demon Devil Dogs. But if you're going to make a movie with your friends, it's probably going to be a horror movie.
Yeah.
And you're probably going to have a blast trying to figure out how to do the special effects.
Right.
Like, how are you going to make it look like his? So you're going to get spaghetti. You're going to get some Hershey's chocolate syrup or whatever. Like you're just going to like raid the kitchen to try to make it look like Dad's guts are like laying in his lap or something. And when you're making it, it's hysterical, and you're like, oh my God, it looks really good. Like you just it's and that's the people that are really into it are watching it on that level and like, oh, how did they do that, and trying to one up each other. For us normal, I'm having a bad reaction to all these smells. I was gonna say, I think that stuff you gave me put me over the top after inhaling the sandalwood directly and then putting perfume on and vaping. I don't know.
Are you having trouble breathing? You're not going into anaphylaxis.
I don't think it's that severe, but keep an eye on me.
You're not
if you
allergic to
would.
peanuts, are you?
No.
Well, do you remember? I mean, I'm older than you, but when we first got Showtime, they would show like those horror movies that had like, you knew the guy was winking at you, like Motel Hell and all those ones. Where you knew the guy was like, they were trying to scare you, but they're also wanting to make you laugh.
Right.
That's the type I like too. There's a sort of new one about these. It's set in the 70s. God, got a great soundtrack. Where they go out, they're trying to make a porn, and they rent this house from these old people. And
Oh yeah, I've
have you
seen
seen?
that one.
Oh man, I thought that was really good.
What's it called?
Yeah.
X or something?
Yeah.
And that's like a trilogy of movies.
Oh, it is. Now you tell
But there
me.
really was like a, what's it called when you cross the Rubicon? What's that mean?
Well, it was a river.
Oh, the Rubicon was a river?
That's in my head. It is.
What does that phrase mean? Am I saying it right, or is that?
Yeah, it's like going into the promised land or something like that, I guess. I'm not sure.
Gotcha. But there was this moment where they crossed the Rubicon. I want to say it might be a completely inappropriate use of that phrase, but to where like the special effects and the digital stuff got so good that it was indiscernible, and then I mean the one-upsmanship just got to the point where these movies are just so horrible. Like you talk about Human Centipede or any of these movies that are just like, it's too much.
So do you like ones like Saw? Like I never.
But if you think about like, you know, when Dad was growing up, horror movies, I mean, come on, how bad could they be? It's a
Dracula, werewolf.
right. It was like Frankenstein and stuff. It was good stuff, classic stuff.
And it's all. It seemed like they made those. There was only like 3 or 4 actors that had to be in every single
Bela
one.
Lugosi,
Yeah. Vincent Price, like good grief, he's every creature under the sun.
Vincent Price.
What were those? Oh God, what were those classic British ones? Hammer horror films. Like
Hammer.
The Hammer.
Yeah.
That was like the guy. You know, that was the whole.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
What's that, Lex? Ding, ding, ding. This just
Ding,
in.
ding, ding. This just in. Caesar crossed the Rubicon on his way to Rome. So that's what Clutch came in with. Jonah with a lot further. The phrase crossing the Rubicon is an idiom that means passing a point of no return. Its meaning comes from an allusion to the crossing of the river Rubicon by Julius Caesar in early January 49 BC.
Ah.
Yeah,
So that was a good use of the
it
phrase.
was.
Yep.
These horror movies have crossed over to the point of no return. And
Thanks,
I don't
Phil.
think any of us are going with them.
Good job.
No, do you like movies like Saw and all those?
No.
I've
See, that's the stuff I'm talking about. They
Yeah.
crossed the Rubicon, and now, but in their world, they still have to keep one-upping each other,
Right.
no matter how horrible that is.
Right.
I guess there's still other filmmakers out there just trying to make a good classic jump scare movie or whatever. But that one-upsmanship on how gross can it be? Not my cup of tea.
I think one of the more recent movies that actually kind of got me a little bit was A Quiet Place.
Mm-hmm. That was fun.
That was fun.
Yeah, it's just tense
Tense, and you really feel it.
and jump scares.
No, what's that one about?
It's like,
It's like an alien
presence,
invasion.
and it's already happened. And
But they
they've
have these
settled
like
into
super
life.
hearing, and like
Oh,
any
yeah.
sound they'll respond to and
Yeah.
to devour whatever makes that sound.
In
So
seconds.
the whole movie is just this family just trying to walk
Is that the guy
very
from The
quietly
Office?
through the world.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There was one like 10 years ago. These people go to a wedding and they're leaving the wedding. They rent out a little cottage, and then these psychos start terrorizing them. Have you ever seen that one? Oh my God, that's scary.
That sounds like every 70s horror movie
This
there
was.
is.
Oh my God, this was so good. Oh man. I
Well, what were you going to say?
Nothing important.
I didn't have anything either. I was just going to put it out there for if the chat has anything that you would like to hear us discuss, any questions, any points of conversation. We always come with nothing and just see what happens.
I got something.
Yeah, please.
I was talking to Kyle about this. I'm gonna offer up a game,
Oh yeah.
and it's for y'all and me and anybody that's watching. We can
Okay.
do so. You have a. It's also like a teacher giving you an assignment. And so here's your assignment. First of all, go around and tell us your 4 freshman through senior years that you attended high school for those times. So like for me, I graduated in 66, so I'll say 63 to 66.
Mm-hmm.
That's in the last century. If you,
I graduated in 88, so I guess that's 84 through 88.
84, 88,
I was 79 to 83.
79, 83. Lex,
89 to 93.
89. So there's a
We
interesting.
covered a lot of ground there.
Yeah. So here's a challenge for us to talk about next week. I want you to pick out the 5 songs that represent your high school days the most to you. Now, they could be just the most popular song or ones that meant something to you and a special, or that you like to run to, whatever your choice, but 5 songs from those years.
Okay.
And we'll get together, and anybody out there can give their years, and we'll compile that and make a book out of it.
Make a book out of
Make it a Jabber John songbook. Which leads me
But they have to be meaningful to us
in
as
some
people.
way, and you have to be able to tell us why. Or you can just say, I liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
5 songs.
5.
Oh my goodness.
It's funny because when I was, God, what year would this have been? Let's say the 90s. I sent out a questionnaire and asked people basically the same thing. Name like your 5 favorite albums and tell why. And maybe like 40 people wrote in, and I put it all together in a little zine and put it out. And one of my friends had this album title wrong, and people just attacked him like, "You moron! How can that be one of your favorite albums? You have the title wrong." And he took it good naturedly. He was like laughing, but he's like, "Man, how embarrassing! How dumb do I?"
That's my favorite album of all time.
Right.
Blood in the Cracks.
Oh, that's a good question.
Spelling and music don't always go together.
That's true.
People should write in. That'd be fun to hear.
Well, I can definitely, I've already, 1984 was probably, wasn't the Van Halen album called 1984? That was a big one. The Van Halen record.
Gigantic.
Yeah.
84 was a great year for.
84 was a great year. Yeah.
And you
But
see, I don't have any identity with that.
Right.
See, I don't
Yeah,
know.
Quiet Riot, Madonna.
God, you were into all that stuff.
From Madonna to Quiet Riot.
Isn't that
Oh,
amazing?
yeah.
Isn't that remarkable?
You know, the birth of MTV was 81, I think. Does that sound right?
Yeah, about that. I remember going
probably.
to parties. People would, in different parts of Stanton, got it at different times. You'd go over to somebody's house and like, we got some weed and some beer. We've got MTV. Oh, forget the weed and the beer. Let's go watch MTV. You know?
It was pretty exciting times. I feel pretty lucky to have been a high school student in the 80s. It's such a classic high school decade. You just think of like the Breakfast Club, and you think of like high
Times at
schools.
Ridgemont High.
Fast and right. Exactly.
That's a movie that I still enjoy every time.
Saul was 83 to 87. We're pretty close.
Yeah.
Jonah 96 to 2000.
Man, we got some kids watching this show. Better stop cussing.
Do you know what the very first music videos, the name of the song, the very first video that was played on MTV when it went
no
on
idea.
air? No idea?
No, I wasn't an MTV guy.
Do you know? Go ahead.
The Buggles.
Buggles. You even know the band.
Video killed the radio star.
Video killed the radio star, which is pretty astounding that song existed and that there was a video for it and it was as prophetic as it was. Silas is in here and says video killed the radio star and then the internet killed the video star. There's a song.
No, how about the Duran Duran? Were you a Duran Duran fan?
I was a Duran Duran fan. Yeah, for sure.
the
Especially that one first record or whatever it was.
when I graduated in '83, and my brother, he graduated 3 years later, but he was vice president of the class, whatever, in '84, '85, and they had a high school dance, and I convinced him to let us do the dance. And
What do you mean us? You had a band?
No, me and we were DJs. We weren't,
DJ.
And we weren't DJs at all. We made some tapes. But there was 2 other guys that knew they were mixing and stuff. They were into hip hop. They were mixing, but so they would play a couple.
In 83? 84?
Yeah, so they were they were doing that, and then they were looking at us with our cassette tape, putting it in a box and playing it. But but we made posters. And we put we put "We Are Not Duran Duran," and we had pictures of Duran Duran killing, beating seal pups, and they were. My brother hung them up at the school. but about. It was like, well, I don't know how long high school dances are, 3 hours or something. About halfway through it, the principal just came out and said, "Stop," because he didn't like the hip hop stuff, and he didn't like we were playing the Clash and just a bunch of punk rock stuff, and the kids were all just like standing, like looking around.
Like, what do we do?
But I remember we played Ray Charles, "Georgia on My Mind," and I remember this one kid just went, "Finally!" Like he was so glad to hear a song. So we had to just pack our stuff up, and they brought out a Michael Jackson album, and just put it on, and everybody started dancing.
Everybody was happy again.
Well, I hope you learned something there.
Hey, what did you learn from that?
But I still have a couple of those posters somewhere.
Oh, I'd love to see that.
We are not Duran.
We are not Duran Duran.
But see,
I loved all that other stuff too, though.
yeah. But see, I was like, that's when I was into punk. Like you just couldn't, like you had to hate everything. You didn't even want to listen to it. But now when I listen to Duran Duran, I'm like, that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm. What was their song?
Her name is
Rio, and she dances in the sand.
Or Hungry Like a Wolf.
Yeah.
Oh, Hungry Like a Wolf.
And there's others.
Have you ever heard that cover album they did?
No.
Like in 2010 or 2015 or something. They did a pretty good cover album of just like hip hop songs and.
What were you listening to in the 80s? Your old.
It's the same thing I was listening to this afternoon, 70s folk music. John Denver and Crosby, Stills and Nash and Neil Young.
It was a hard decade for a lot of the legends, because a lot of unfortunate albums came out from like Crosby, Stills and Nash, and like everybody wanted to put out their 80s album. And so all these, because all the 70s, 60s legends were still kicking, and here's these new sounds and this new electronic influence. So like all my heroes tried to step up to the plate and get their bat on the 80s ball, and were just swinging and missing right and left. It was pretty embarrassing output from a lot of rock and roll's legends in the 80s.
Yeah, a lot of stuff sounded so electronically fake.
Which was cool for, like the Eurythmics or something, because it was just new music, like like Aha or something. It's like, oh, and so, but then if Bob Dylan tries to do it, it's like, no, please, Neil Young, what are you doing? This is horrible.
Well, part of that is just the idea that at 45, you're not going to be creating the same stuff you were at 25.
Right.
And part of it is just the whole thing got old. But the problem with that, not a problem, but a situation with that is that when they were 25 to 35 and they were doing the good stuff, it was really good stuff.
And it was
and we
revolutionary.
have 20 years of it to listen to. When the 60s had some great artists and the 70s had some great artists. Then the 80s, when you're living in the 80s, you're listening to the new people.
Right.
But you asked me earlier about what I was listening to. I was listening to reruns of the 60s and the 70s. And you were too, because you were my kid and you were listening to those 45s. That's where you get a lot of your chops, you know that.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. So, it's interesting to say, but somebody that didn't have that background, a young person or someone in their room that doesn't have any other equipment, and I used to collect old records, and so I learned even more from before I was really listening to records. I got a lot of 50s stuff, but I wasn't, I was 5 years old. I wasn't listening to. But when I started listening, I was listening to my older sister's stuff. And
Right.
And then I kept some of that and added when the Beatles came along and all that. It was so, you talk about 84 being fun. How about 62?
Oh, man, I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
God,
I remember coming home on the bus, running down after school at the old Lee and going into Morgan Music and getting I Want to Hold Your Hand.
Oh.
And then catching the bus and riding home with that, holding it in my hands. I couldn't wait to get home.
What was on the other side of that record? You remember?
Well, no, that was the album I had.
That was a whole
But
album.
Oh, it was a whole-
yeah, I didn't get to.
Oh.
I got the first album.
Nice.
I want to hold your hand.
Oh,
The four of them
songs.
mop heads on the front.
Oh man.
But the answer to your question, I think, was probably "She Loves You." Mm-hmm. What was on? I had the 45 too, of course.
It's so, like music has always changed, like what you were listening to, then disco and punk and all that. But if you didn't live through the '80s, the whole sound of music changed almost. It was like these beautiful guitar sounds when you were growing up, and then all of a sudden everything sounded like it was like like a from a tin can or something. Yeah, like is anybody playing any of these instruments? It was
Yeah,
like
it was the birth of the synthesizers and all that kind of. And I do feel like the '80s were this particular kind of sand trap that a lot of legends got stuck in, and in a really interesting way, because then even beyond in the '90s or in the aughts or whatever you call the 2000s, a lot of those people came back and did some of their best work ever. Like Leonard Cohen, Bob Dylan. Dylan had like Time Out of Mind. Leonard Cohen started doing like The Future and some, like the soundtrack to Natural Born Killers. Some of those tracks, like some of the stuff we think they after the '80s they found themselves again and were able to get back to making legendary music. But the '80s was this particular quagmire and conundrum for people.
And some of those songs from the '80s might have actually been good if they were allowed just to do it the way they were used to doing it.
Yeah, the songs themselves. Yeah.
When were the Talking Heads? What year?
'80s.
The
I'd
80s.
say, yep.
Well, you asked what I was listening to in the 80s.
Yeah, I remember
That
that. I remember when you guys
definitely
were all
had a
about
Talking
that.
Heads going on in the house.
Tom Waits was really big. That was his sort of heyday. Was the
Okay,
'80s.
well,
He's one of the few classic American treasures that really was strong in their voice in the '80s. He was unlike
Yeah, I
anybody
was definitely
else.
a Tom Waits fan. Yeah. How about John Prine? Had he started
I
yet?
feel like John Prine might have
I think he
gotten
was
a little
young.
stuck in an '80s trap for a second, but I can't think of what album that would be. But he definitely did great work after the '80s.
Right.
So I feel so lucky that Joe and Hunter took Catherine and I to see John Prine right before he passed. To be one of my heroes.
Oh, I didn't remember that. That's
Yeah,
great.
we got to see him, and that last record of his is a great record, Tree of Forgiveness. He did really. There's a lot of my heroes. I feel like Leonard Cohen did great work all the way up to the end, which is really good to see. 'Cause
Right.
especially as a 53-year-old songwriter, you don't want to see everyone never being able to do something great after their younger years or whatever. It's a whole thing. Especially with that little slump in the middle, you get a little nervous.
It was the CD. I mean, everything was different. It was the whole. It's gonna sound different. We gotta make everything has to be crystal clear. Even if your sound was sort of a muddy, beautiful sound, they had to make it crystal clear and like, oh, it sounds terrible like that way.
Yeah.
It's got to be CD sound quality. No, let them do what they're used
I
to.
wonder what my first CD was. You don't remember what your first CD was? Do you remember having to make that transition?
Not really. It was so gradual, just
We definitely experienced that though, because
Yeah.
I remember 8 tracks, like legit, not as a nostalgic
Right.
thing, but as the way 8 tracks were such a weird, because you couldn't go to a single song.
Right.
A cassette tape, you could at least fast forward and
Right.
rewind and stuff. 8 tracks had like 4 sides, A, B, C, and
Right.
D.
I remember I was working at a record store when CDs first came out, and like how a record they have this, the little things you flip your records, and that's when CDs came in those big tall cases. So 2 of them side by side were the same as an album. So they actually packaged
There'll
them.
be 4 of them, right?
Well, no, it was just like a CD, but it was like a case as tall as a CD. It was all just cardboard. But when you put 2 of them side by side, it was the same size as an album. They marketed it just so record stores would take the records out, and then you just put, CDs in there.
Ah, so it'd fill the same shelf space.
Yeah, so it was, the whole thing was like we would, if you'd buy it, take it home, open it, you threw away most of it, just a big, because I guess they didn't know how to market them then.
Definitely when we were just talking about 1984, and I was thinking of Van Halen and Madonna and all. Those are all cassettes
Yeah.
in my mind.
Those were the days.
Those were the days. Oh, that was one of my first too. Clutch says, I remember. I don't know if you were in here when we opened your present. You should go back and watch it if not, because we were very happy about it. He
Thank
says
you.
his first CD was Queen's Greatest Hits album.
Man,
Yeah, I remember
God,
that.
that's a good memory. I can't remember what mine was. I must have been working at the record
CDs,
store.
they were talking about how you could run over them in a car and stuff. And how they're like virtually indestructible.
Right.
I was like, yeah, maybe if you ran over it with a car on a wooden basketball court or something like that. Those things skipped like crazy. Just look at them sideways, and they acted weird.
I remember
And his old records have been through everything, falling off the tops of cars, and still play the music.
I remember when CDs came out, they would give us these like little free publications at the record store. I mean, they would just tell you anything to get people to buy CDs. Or like, so much better than cassettes. In the summertime, you have to take your cassettes inside. You can't leave them out of the get all warped. CDs, you have the car up to 5,000 degrees. You know,
Right,
so they'll
right.
still be good to go.
Which is true.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as it's just sitting there, it's probably true. But boy, they were easy. Here's a hot tip for. I don't think anybody even uses CDs anymore. I feel like vinyl's the only thing still alive of all the mediums. I'm not sure if people even make CDs anymore.
They do.
Do they?
Yeah.
And cassettes.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
cassettes are
I
coming
mean, I'm
back.
not saying practically speaking, I'm not sure that that's necessarily true. I mean, I know that they still exist. Like, you probably get a Taylor Swift something, but I don't know if, like, Willie or anybody I know is... I know they're all making vinyl still. I guess if they're working with a bigger company, they're going to have
They might
all
have
the
some
available
CDs,
options
yeah.
to buy online. But as a touring musician, I'm just not sure that there's a market for CDs anymore, and the way it used to be. But it's
Yeah.
it's
people don't have
it's a
CD
fascinating
players.
thing. What's that?
CD players and cars and stuff are becoming less and less. It's just all about touchscreen and
Mm-hmm.
or Bluetooth.
The new computers don't have a CD drive in them anymore. The new cars don't have a CD player in them anymore.
It'll be coming back.
It's
Kids,
interesting.
kids popping in a CD and lighting up a cigarette.
Right.
You know?
It's the 90s style. It's all coming back. It's retro now.
Putting in the Cypress Hill CD.
Well, the beauty
But
of
what I was going to say real quick before I forget was, if you do have a scratched up CD that is skipping and won't play right, get some like Crest toothpaste and just rub it in there in a circular motion, really good. Wash it off, dry it with a non-abrasive cloth. It'll completely fix that skipping CD.
or you can take it to No New Books and they'll put it through their machine and take
They have
the
a
script.
machine.
Yeah.
What's oh?
Because I
I
buy a
don't know
bunch
that
of
place
CDs
good
there, and he always says you want me to run them through the machine.
Oh,
before
they
you
have a
take 'em
machine.
home. Yeah.
You ever been to this place? No New Books.
Did we go
You
there?
never been there?
Mm-mm.
God, it's a wonderland.
Wow. It looks
Where
pretty-
is it? Is that the one on Richmond Road?
Yeah. I've probably spent like 5 hours at a time in there.
I love that.
It is a lot.
And it's a lot of books.
Lot going on in there.
Yeah, and CDs and
Gyms.
comics and
Gyms?
They do have like gyms and geodes and stuff in there.
Oh, gems.
oh yeah.
I thought people were working out in the side. It was like,
and a lot of DVDs and like just anything
That's
that's
fun.
old and out of style now they collect it.
that's fun.
And what's his face? The record store that used to be down by Chicano Boys is opening up near the Chinese restaurant we went to. Out where Staples and
Oh, really?
yeah.
Good. He's got a legit thing going on. I think. It's not very
Cool.
It's not very personable. I'm not on microphone.
All right, so I have been corrected in the chat. In 2023, the U.S. produced 37 million compact discs. I'm guessing is, and the world produced 2 billion. Well, here's a topical thing that people have been talking about, and I know nothing about this, but maybe someone else here does, about how Saudi Arabia is no longer using the U.S. dollar for all of their oil purchases. Do y'all know anything about that? The petrodollar?
No.
You finally found a subject no one knows anything about.
The way people are talking about it is a really big deal. But
If you had asked me what they used 2 years ago, I wouldn't have known. I would have said CDs. They just traded in CDs.
I thought you were going to ask me who was the felon of the week.
Yeah, all right. Wow, they're really geeking out on the rise and fall of the look at that. Yeah. That does sort of harken to my point, though.
It hit us all hard. The death of the CD.
That's the rise and fall of the compact disc.
Wow.
Well, the best thing about buying music constantly since like 1980 is when everybody got their CDs, they got rid of their albums. So you could just scoop in and get great, rare, beautiful albums for like $2 or $3.
Those people must be kicking
I know.
themselves a decade
So I would just
or two
go
later.
in and buy all these albums. Just like you'd find, oh my God, I would just go home. My wife would be like, what the heck are you doing? And then when all this digital stuff came, people started selling their CDs. So now I can just go and like, here's all these CDs. I can't believe. So if you just stay like a couple years behind everybody else, you can just reap in all the benefits.
Right. Yeah, it's fun.
Because like albums now are like $28. I'm like, man, if you're some common Joe just slapping hash somewhere, that's a lot of money to pay for an album. I know they're beautiful things now. They're, whenever I get one, you look at it, it's like.
Are you talking about albums that people are putting out now or old albums?
No, the
new
ones,
albums.
Yeah.
Huh.
They're really, I have a couple of friends that all they just buy is albums. I was like, man.
Well, you almost buy things like that almost more of a collectible than
A lot of people
something
do
to
buy 'em.
listen to.
Yeah, a lot. I just read an article. Is it bad to buy albums as like art pieces? It's become sort of like that. They're not black anymore. They're all marble looking or orange looking or something like that.
We still, it's one thing. The only way if we're listening to music upstairs with company or with each other or whatever, it's all vinyl.
That's cool.
We have
That's because you're cool. There's not that many cool people out there, I don't think.
Well,
And there's some old people that are cool.
No, that's the
they
reason
have vinyl because
No,
they're
that's the
old.
reason you don't have many friends.
Right.
He's trying to make you feel good for why you don't have very many friends over here. People aren't that cool to listen to your vinyl.
What do you listen to most at home?
Well, remember I told you I've got thousands of albums. I don't have a record player set up, so I still.
But you don't have a record player, so I forgot that bit.
So I still listen to CDs.
We got to fix that.
That's
So CDs is the most common thing you listen to?
Oh yeah. I've got
in your boombox.
I still buy albums and I get home and just stare at them and cry because I don't have any way to play them. Out of laziness and ignorance because I don't know how to set up the record player.
And you're mostly Alexa now, right?
Yeah, and we don't talk as much as we used to since I stopped paying her.
Right. Not as interested in what you have to say.
I used to think she really liked me. And now it's all about the money.
Yep.
You can't trust those AI women.
Yep.
Gold diggers.
Gold diggers, every single one of them.
But albums are just perfect because they're you can do the dishes on one side of an album. You can, fold your laundry. When you put a CD on, I'm sort of like, oh, I want to go upstairs and do something, but I don't want to miss these. I don't know why. All I got to do is come back and hit reverse. But I'm like, I'll just do something down here that I don't want to do. Albums give you that. All right, here's 5 good songs. Get out of here and do what you got to do.
It's still it's still a little dream of mine. Someday I'm gonna have something of. I'm the last of my friends to have anything on vinyl.
Oh wow!
I don't have. I'm not on vinyl yet.
Put me down for a sale. I'll give you the money right now.
Pre-order.
What does that involve?
You just pay for it.
Well,
Really?
how much do you have to pay for it?
Yeah, I mean,
a lot more than a CD.
a lot more than a CD, but it's not like it's not impossible.
Well, I would think Jabber John could take on a project.
But I've
Sell-
I've always wanted to make my new record be on vinyl or whatever, as opposed to going back to one of my old ones and putting it on vinyl. And I just haven't made that record yet.
Well, that sounds like a excuse.
A little bit, yeah.
Now, when you're writing new songs now, do you like say this is the ones that would go on the album, or this would be one album, this song would have to go on a different album, or do you sort of categorize them in your mind, or not?
Well, I spent 10 years trying to learn how to self-produce and make albums, and I've made probably 10 albums down here in that time, but the learning curve was so steep that I never felt any of them were vinyl worthy, the end result. Loved the songs, the production needed some help, didn't sound
Oh, that's
professional
right. What am I
enough.
thinking about? So I'm thinking about you have no way to compile them without actually. So you have an album like basically ready to go.
Oh, I got multiple albums ready to go.
So you've done all the
And
background work.
Mm-hmm. But I think at this point, I've learned that I can't. I should go to a real studio and work with a real producer and make a real record for my vinyl. But
Now, would they be able to use what you have, or you'd have to be all re-recorded?
all re-recorded.
Where would you go? What are your options?
I got some friends that are making some really great records right now. The Fruition Crew and Taylor Kingman and the Holy Know Nothings and Willie T. Taylor. A lot of my friend group are making great records right now. They
In the
Tyler,
same, are they
this guy
using
Tyler,
the same system? Are they using the same people to make those?
sort of. It's sort of like the old school Stax or like Fruition, like TK and the Holy Know Nothings are sort of the house band for Willie's record and for John Craigie's new record and all these records that are coming out of this one core group of people, and they've all extended the invitation to me. And like Willie T. Taylor, we got to get you a copy of Willie's latest record. It's mind-blowingly good, and everything that they're touching is turned into gold. And they've got it down. Tyler's become a heck of a producer, and they got the musicians. He plays the drums on everything, and so they have this little cottage industry of cranking out these records now that's like Motown level. They got a vibe. They got the band. So I feel like that's what I would do. And what they've done, that would either be Oregon or Philadelphia. So when the time comes, I would just have to coordinate with all those people and go to one of those studios and and make it happen. There are some remote things that can happen these days that are possible, of not necessarily needing everybody to be in the room at the time, but I know they like to do a lot of it live. But it's definitely an exciting possibility. It'd be so hard if someone were to say, okay, you're going in next week. You got all the band's there, they're waiting for you. What songs should we do? I wouldn't know where to begin, how to think about that, because I've got so many songs that I've written in the past that have never been on a record or have only been home recorded. It's almost overwhelming. I don't even know what.
Wow.
Or you got the latest stuff. I don't know. I don't know what that record would be.
Have you ever been to the studio up there by the
Blue?
up there by where Young's Hardware used to be? Gosh, now I can't think of what it's
I
called.
don't know.
Oh, Echo
Oh,
Hall.
Echo
Yeah.
Hollow. I'm not. Is that really a studio?
I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I know he repairs electronics and that kind of stuff, but I don't know.
Recorded album there.
Ah.
That one, that black and white cover.
Mm-hmm. They have their own studio
I think
too.
Shagwolf recorded there.
Hmm.
Yeah. I think you're right about that.
But their band is playing. Jane is opening up for them next Friday.
Shagwolf?
No, what? Oh man, I'm drawing a total blank on people's names. The guy that does
What is he at?
Waverly?
yeah,
Waverly, yeah. Waverly. That is an interesting dude. He'd be fun to interview on this show. Someday we should branch out into that. Bring people in and interview. The three of us can just pick their brains about what it is they do or whatever. But he was like a NASA guy or something.
Yeah.
Like his level of understanding how electronics and stuff work is crazy.
He's
Like,
engineered things that are on satellites right now in space.
right.
He's
Wow.
I think he
cited
has
on that.
patents to his name and stuff
Yeah.
like
I
that.
think
He's
he
that
just hit-
kind of guy.
I think he just hit like his 100th like cited scientific something. I can't remember the terminology for it, but he just had his 100th one of those happen, like the scientific publication or something that he was responsible for.
Man.
I'm really underselling that, but he's really amazing.
Yeah.
And then he turned all that into fixing gear and making guitar amps and making pedals, and then it allowed him to get back to playing and recording music.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
He's a great player too, very versatile, is wide-ranging kind of dude.
No, if you're, he's got a pretty cool record store in there too. Sort of
Mhm.
hit and miss, but I found some really good stuff in there.
Mm-hmm.
Good prices. All right. So what do we have to? How much money do we have to raise?
It's a lot of it's not really a financial concern. It's just having that drive. Right now, I'm just so into what I'm doing with the daily practice and acoustic versions of all my songs. That it's there's so many songs that never got played very much, and doing this nightly, just acoustic versions of everything has been very inspiring to me. So I feel like if I was to make a record right now true to what I'm doing right now, it would be a solo acoustic record, which I probably don't need to go somewhere else. A lot of it's just like, I'm not touring and I don't necessarily have a market for it. Would just be a good thing to do. I just don't even know how I would approach it, because you'd almost want to do a greatest hits or something. I don't know what record. What record would you like to see me make if I went to a studio with a real band and was going to make a real record? Do you think there's a way I should think about that?
I think that, I have the classic older ones from your younger days, but I think if I was planning it the way what you're talking about planning, you could almost look at it like an anthology, where you start off with the younger stuff, and some of that stuff. My favorite is when you came back from the road and lived out in the tree house, and that's when you wrote "Rolling Home" and so many of those "Chicken and Rice," and those are just family songs.
Rolling Home, never on a record.
Yeah,
That's got it.
It's crazy.
that's wrong. I mean, John Denver should eat that up, and he will. I'm going to talk to him about it. Yeah.
Is John Denver still alive?
No. I'm going to see him soon. That was an illusion. Not an illusion, an illusion. But yeah, I think you could do it, maybe an anthology of your history that represents. That would be a different angle that you could just take at it. So you do a similar thing to what we're going to do with all that music that we get from every year. You could be doing your top ones throughout your career, and that would include some of your favorites that you've done recently, and so that it wouldn't just be an oldies but goodies, which would be what I would typically say you should do.
Right.
But, when you want to put Do You Believe in Ghosts and some of those, you know the ones I like. But then you go back, but it's interesting because in the anthology, you say you can go all the way back to Frankie Avalon, because that's what Mom is thinking about when she's listening. Her favorite song was what was it?
So Close to Dreams.
No, well that.
Oh, If I Didn't Love You.
If I Didn't Love You.
Never on a record.
Never on a record.
Yeah.
And that's a classic song that somebody could have made a big hit of, and still can. So why don't we beat them to it?
Now, when I was watching you a couple nights ago, and somebody was writing in, like, I don't know all your old songs, but they were writing in, like, you had a new, like you had added a new verse or something. Like, what, you just make that up off the top of your head while you're playing, or?
There's always been this interesting phenomenon of like old songs. I have a bunch of old songs that never got played again because there's one line I might not like. There might be just one line that I don't like will keep that song from being played. Again, I was talking about this on the show the other night. I was like, because to me it's like you're doing this important soliloquy, but at some point it's written in there for no explicable reason that I pull a banana peel out of my pocket and drop it on the floor. Because that line just doesn't fit. That line doesn't belong there. Right. Sometimes it's a whole verse or something. But the rest of the song might be one of the best songs I've ever written. But I've always been a little bit mystified that they will just not be fixed. I'll have a song that for years I've always thought about that one line that drives me crazy. And then I hear John Prine tell a story about how, like, if he starts a song in a chair, if he gets up and leaves that chair, he can't expect that song to still be there when he gets back. There are these mystical implications to the inspiration or where that song is coming to you. And it's really hard. It was such a relief hearing him tell that story, because I was like, right? Like, you if you don't finish the song right there, there's no guarantee that you can just come back to it.
Well, the people that were typing in when you were playing were like, oh, I don't remember those lines before.
But then, every rule is meant to be broken. And so recently there was a song that I felt that way about, and I actually just rolled up my sleeves and was like, all right, let's just forget that rule and forget all those implications. And so I wrote some new words for it.
Man.
You want to hear it?
That's a good one.
It's about time.
Yeah. Just real quick, we got to go to the chat for a little correction here. Rolling Home is on a Nathan Moore album.
Oh, live at the Mine Show? Live
Troubadour.
at the... What's that?
Troubadour.
Oh.
Tech support with the correction. I'm just saying.
Well, I have a lot of records in the all access section of my website that I've made here at home that were never really, they're not on Spotify or anything like that. And there's even some that on Spotify that
he said, let the record show.
probably shouldn't be.
And Clutch reminding us that Corner House, our buddy Ethan and friends.
They've recorded it. That's
has
right.
Done a cover of Rolling Home.
Yeah, Rolling Home is on a record that's not a Nathan Moore record. That's cool. Corner House. Yeah, that's probably on Spotify. Y'all could listen to that right away.
I need to pay my bill.
I want you to read my mind, to see the trees and not be blind. Don't want to leave you far behind as I walk off on down the line. Oh, this world is make-believe. There's angels hiding in the trees. There's demons selling apple cider, and I'm raking Whitman's leaves, and all the bells are banging, and all the drills are clanging, and all the sky's hanging from a hook. And it's like I'm in a painting, in a scene in a movie, being watched by somebody in a book. Oh, oh, oh. I've seen the world, the bitter world, the sweet world, the glory world, and to this day I'm still not sure which one is right outside my door. Oh, I can't do it. It's the wrong key and everything. It's fixed lines, it's like duct tape all over it, and it's leaking the gas still. Let me play you a brand new song.
Rick and Whitman's Leaves is a great line.
Yeah, there's some good. It's gonna happen. I wondered something different than I'm wondering. Oh, it breaks my heart, might never know. I might never sit in the delicate delicatessen, but save me a seat and blundering I will go. I won't stop for nothing. I'll never not go. I've always been on to something. What? Might never know. Sleeping ugly might be, but I am at the table, and weren't we all awakened by a kiss? Once you've caught the lightning, once you've seen the angels, you can't just pretend they don't exist. And I won't stop for nothing. I will never not go. I've always been on to something. What? Might never know. Porcupine on a juke joint stage dove onto a cactus, shook it off, said, oh, and that's not all. Everything up to this point's been practice, 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 'cause that's the way you get to Carnegie Hall. And I won't stop for nothing. I will never not go. I've always been on to something. What? Might never know. Yeah, brand new.
Wow.
What's the name of that?
The Blessed Porcupine.
Wow.
Blessed Porcupine. Porcupine on a juke joint stage dove onto a cactus, shook it off, said, oh, and that's not all. Everything up to this point's been practice, 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 because that's the way you get to Carnegie Hall.
I love it. I love it. There you go.
Thank you so much out there. Love you, appreciate you. We will
Thank
see
you,
you
Clutch.
next time. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Clutch.
Thank you all for coming. Have a safe ride home.
All right. Episode 69, that's 70 next week.
Wow.
Who'd have thunk it?
Who do you think it?
It's showing up on my Facebook memories. That's scary as shit, isn't it?
It's like, wait a second, we just started this endeavor. That's funny. That's good.